There are new and exciting things happening over in our sponsor Jeff's podcasting world, and now is a great time to jump in and get into some fresh content. There are 3 new cast members on the War for the Tower podcast, which is an actual play RPG podcast set in the world of the Dark Tower series. Everything is Awesome has a brand new co-host, and the Shattered Worlds RPG is now live streaming on Twitch. You can find the link to that bi-weekly fantasy space opera stream in the show notes, so go check it out and let them know you heard about them from us. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Some Spoiled, back and better than ever. A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros, HBO Spoiler Edition, uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV, bringing you the greatest hits from 1998. Call in with your requests now. In these chapters, which are 34 and 35, Jon and Bran. Not a whole lot happens here, but a lot of, foreboding shit. You can tell bad shit's coming. It just hasn't actually, come yet. It'll be here. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
So, what did you think? I know that, like I said, not a lot happens. But what were your feelings on these chapters?
Exactly what you said in the intro, to be honest. Both of these chapters were quite the tensest to read. It was very creepy and dark, and just kind of waiting for someone to jump out from behind the door and yell boo at you or something,
The Mike Myers music has started playing, but you don't know exactly where he is in the house.
Yeah, it was very much like that. Quite frankly, between, just me and you and the 3 people that are listening, I was so happy when the Jon chapter was over, because it was I needed to breathe, and I was so glad when it was done.
Oh, God. I feel so bad, because that just could be taken, I just imagine Jon listening to this and being like, oh, God. Shit, that's mean.
I mean, there are other days, but I'm glad the Jon chapter is over for wholly different reasons. But for this one, I was just like, good God, a bitch needs to take a breath.
Yeah.
I was reading it and just not breathing for 3 or 4 pages at a time. And then the Bran chapter we'll get to that in a second. We'll just start with the Jon, because I got separate stuff to say about the Bran chapter.
All right, so the Jon chapter starts off with, first of all, Mormon is not in a good mood.
He is cranky, and I was cranky today, so I felt like it was right. It was very comforting, that part.
Jon says, thinks to himself something about how, the strain of trying to keep up with younger men was really wearing on him. And I was like, yeah, probably, the physical strain as well as just realizing that you've aged. As somebody who's beginning to go through that, at the very beginning stages of really seeing the difference. It's jarring because you don't feel it until certain things happen, and then all of a sudden you're made deeply aware that you aren't young anymore, but it just doesn't occur to you sometimes,
I could tell you guys about how all of a sudden my right foot is doing this thing where if I step on it the wrong way, I get a shooting pain that almost cripples me. Mm-hmm. I don't know where that came from. I don't know why it started. I haven't done anything to my foot. And yet here we are.
Your foot's doing shit to you now.
That's
how it goes.
It's just different body parts are just like deciding to call the shots for themselves.
100%. Listen, I am 37 and I am developing arthritis in one of my hands. That doesn't feel right. What? I don't feel like, no. You know, come on. Really?
My in-laws came over to watch the Sopranos movie, the Many Saints in Newark, and I was talking to my brother-in-law. For like a week, I just couldn't turn my neck to the right. Like, out of fucking nowhere. I just couldn't. It just...
I just love this shit. Like, what? Why is this the thing? That if you were, like, to be given a full map of everything your body has done, you would see, oh yeah, this repetitive motion that I do without thinking about it, to look over my shoulder when I'm sitting at my desk or I'm in the kitchen. Okay, so now I get it. But without that, you just feel like this just completely arbitrarily shut down on me for no reason.
Exactly. A victim of circumstances completely outside of your control. You're powerless over them. And it just feels really unfair.
My arthritis is in my left index finger.
What do you
That's
do
the
with...
only place. I have no idea. No idea why. I don't think that I use this finger particularly often. I don't know what, you know? And, like, sometimes it's not bad. And then there'll be other times where I just, like, knock my hand against the door jamb as I walk into the bedroom and I almost double over. Who fucking knows? No clue. So anyway, Mormont, I'm sorry, bud, because I'm sure him being even older than either of us and it being horseback in the fucking winter, it's so much worse.
Oh, and they're in these mountains, and then when they're climbing up to the top of the Fist of the First Man, it's all fucking, treacherous. There's not a good path. They gotta, like, go all the way around the side to find a path that the horses can make it through. And he's got all these jackasses he's carting with him through the wilds, you know?
And even, like, Jon is like, there's no water up here, and he's like, yeah, well, we'll climb back down for water. What, are you too lazy to climb for water? And Jon's like, I mean, a little. Yeah, I won't say anything, but that isn't ideal. Yeah, this sucks. I do love too, though, they don't have any water, but I'll be damned if this man doesn't sit down and immediately order some spiced wine, because he has his priorities fucking straight.
This fucking... how particular he is about his wine. And I read the paragraph, and nuts and berries. Like, this is it's not soup. What is happening? Why is this wine
It's a straight up alcoholic oatmeal is what it is. You know what? Start a trend. I feel like that's something that you could get really going on, like TikTok or Instagram. Is alcoholic oatmeal.
And then there's unexpected lemon slander for no reason.
I love this. He's just like, you don't do that bullshit. And Jon's like, yeah, but you do have lemons, like, in your beer every single morning. Yeah, he just keeps that shit to himself.
He says, what does it say about the lemons? That it's like a southern, like, travesty or something. Yeah. Like, you know, like only those southern people do that bullshit. But I also do it every morning, but it's different when I do it.
I love that so much. And I mean, as somebody who is like, has extremely strong opinions about food for no reason, like, this shit does not matter, but I am like very serious about it. I deeply love how particular he is. I have often thought about this, like, if I were to be somebody who had servants, I couldn't just be like, hey, would you make me a tuna sandwich? I'd have to be like, all right, here's the first day of orientation where I show you how I like my tuna sandwiches. And I would have to, like, really show them, this is what I want. When I'm asking for that, do it this way. And go through every item that I consistently eat and want it exactly that way.
But you would give really good Christmas bonuses, right?
I would be so guilt-ridden at all times for how demanding I was that they could completely walk all over me. It would be just not even worth it at all. But anyway, so throughout all of this, too, Jon is just like, look, I know that, like, everything looks fine, but something is not right around here.
He feels sketched out immediately. Mm-hmm. And at one point, he, like, kind of yells at himself to, like, grow up. Like, he used to say, stop playing the boy, which is the phrasing of that. Because it's not, like, normally you would hear, like, stop behaving like a boy or stop acting like a child, you know, grow up or something. But he says, stop playing the boy. Acting. Oh, that's even better. Stop acting the boy.
Yeah.
It's just a strange phrase. But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, it works. But it's just, I don't know. It feels like something you wouldn't hear.
It sort of makes me think of, like, therapy talk a little bit. Where they're like, look, you're falling into your pattern. You know better than this. You know what I mean? Like, he's trying to tell himself, hey, bud, like, I get it. You're freaking out. But you're a grown-up, and you know that nothing's really wrong, and it's fine, and you really need to chill the fuck out. And
it's a little soothing self-talk there.
A little bit, but also, like, tough love. You know?
But it doesn't help. I mean, it helps for a second, but he's clearly creeped the entire time he's here. That bird, that Mormont's raven, I resent how much this bird is making me dislike ravens, who I am normally a huge fan of. Big fan of the raven.
This raven is like, what's the most upsetting word anybody has said in the last 2 minutes? Let me just repeat that like 6 times.
Doesn't he just yell old a bunch of times for no reason?
Old, dead. Like, chill the fuck out, dude. And even, like, Samwell seems fine. And Jon goes over to check on him. And Samwell's like, oh, I'm doing pretty good. And Jon's like, well, shit, I can't talk to him about how I'm feeling because I'm just going to fuck his whole head up, and I don't want to do that.
It took him so long to, like, have a positive response to how are you doing, that Jon, which, you know, good on Jon. He's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that to him right now.
Yeah.
So they have found themselves at this sort of ancient place called the Fist of the First Men. And Jon is like, oh, it really does look like a fist.
You know what? I don't blame him for being surprised because think about, like, constellations and shit, and people are like, you know, people just say things look like anything. They'll be like cliff sides that they're like, that's the old man cliff because it looks like an old man with his head bent. And you're like, it really doesn't. But fine.
So this place is, I'm trying to, like, it's elevated, so they have to climb up, and once they're at the top of it, they have a pretty good, like, 360 view, right?
Yeah, yep.
And Mormont is pleased with himself and his decision to be here because he decides this is a really good location for waiting for the half hand to meet them, and also being able to keep a lookout for wildlings. Right. And then, of course, there is the problem about the water, which Mormont is not distressed about at all. And this, I think Jon tells us he remembered when he's being all kind of like, this place is weird and wrong. He talks about stories that they were told about this place.
There's a lot of, like, legend around this.
And Ghost is also acting a little skittish.
Yeah, Ghost is being really weird and, like, not wanting to come when he's called and all kinds of stuff.
This is when I started to feel away.
Yeah.
You know.
Agreed.
As I was reading, at one point, Jon is just like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, clearly this is a terrible idea to be here. That's what's wrong with him.
And later on in this meeting where Jon is like, he's bringing the wine, but it's Mormont having a talk with his men about how they're going to proceed. a lot of these men don't seem to be on board with the way shit's going either.
Yeah.
It's there's clearly some discontent happening at this point. And they're keeping it to themselves, but it's not like they're openly like mutinying or anything, but they're definitely like, all right, I mean, I'll do it, but it's a stupid fucking decision.
Right. Like there's like a little bit of talk of like, where else they could go from here. And they're talking about different ways, and there's, something called the Frost Fangs.
Yeah.
And, they're talking about how to get there. And there's something called Giant Stair, which between me and you, I don't love that. There's something called
I don't like regular stairs. Never mind giant stairs. Thank you, but no.
Skirling Pass. And what's the other? Is there another one, or is it just those two? It might be it. I thought there was
I'm trying to find the spot where you're at. What page is that on?
511.
Here it says, Giant Stair might serve, or the Skirling Pass if it's clear.
I guess it's just those two.
I would not go into the mountains at all, said Sir Otten Withers. The Frost Fangs have a cruel bite even in summer, and now, if we should be caught by a storm, and Mormont's like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, unless he absolutely have to.
Yeah.
And then he says to his crew, he's like, all right, well, the wildlings, aren't going to do any better than we are out here. They can't live on snow and stone. They're going to come out, and we're going to see them. No, and then the next counterpoint is, all right, well, yeah, they'll come out, but it's thousands of them, and it's like 300 of us. Then what?
Yeah, and he's like even talking about like digging cisterns to keep the men occupied, and I'm like, wow, they're really going to hold up here for a minute then. Like that wasn't what I was expecting. I didn't remember that they were like, the whole plan was to really
just like sort of camp out here. Yeah. So Thor starts to say what his rangers are going to do, and Mormon is like, yeah, they're going to mind their fucking business and stay right here is what they're going to do.
Yep. And they're talking about too with Craster, and like one of the guys sort of implies, well, that's what he said, but we don't know if that's true. And Mormont is like, I have no reason to think that he would lie to us about this. And these dudes clearly are just like, and why wouldn't he lie? Like they have the whole other perspective on it.
Right.
But the whole thing with Mormont is he's just going to operate as if what Craster said is what is happening, because they don't actually have any other information. It's just these guys being like real twitchy about it all.
Yeah. I mean, it's they have ventured out pretty far. I have a hard time gauging how much time has passed between when they actually left the wall, but it feels like the further away they get, the twitchier everyone gets. And just based on this chapter, if this is the energy that we find when they're out there, I don't care for it. I don't.
Yeah, this is all feeling like just everything feels really precarious.
Mormont asked, because the guys leave, the one guy who's wondering about whether Craster is even trustworthy, he leaves a little bit in a huff, and then the rest of the guys leave after that. And Mormont asked Jon, first he asked him if ghosts like had any luck hunting. And then he's like, because, we could use some meat. And I had to stop for a second because my brain read that as like, Ghost was going to go hunting for them. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, that's not what he means.
Yeah, just to indicate if there is game to be had.
So we could go out there and get it. But
fighting Ghost in order to get some of his dinner. It's mine.
For a split, they are out in the woods. The rules are different out there. But yeah, so he asked Jon, do you think I'm wrong to keep the Rangers close? And Jon does a very diplomatic, that's really not my place to say one way or the other.
And he's like, bitch, I asked you a direct fucking question.
You know
so
what?
yes, it is.
As an aside, whenever you have these moments in books and TV shows, whatever, where a person of authority is asking an underling for their air quotes honest opinion, and then the underling has to kind of be like, well, whatever you say, boss. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, and then they have to get that reassurance, like, oh, you can speak freely. Is that because that's a thing that happens in real life, where your person in authority, like, traps you?
I think it is for some people. I think depending on the authority figure, like, they can be, first of all, just they suspect you disagree and they want you to just say it. And they're like, it is a bit of a trap. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think, like, all right, look, I can tell they didn't agree, but I also don't respect them or their opinion, so I'm going to ask you, since I do respect you.
Right.
And I don't know. I personally, I never have a problem giving my opinion, so I would never have to be reassured. But also, there are many times in my life where it would have been better if I just shut my fucking mouth. So
I don't, like, go out of my way to offer my opinion to anybody that has any sort of authority over me. You know, I don't go rushing to tell my bosses what I think about anything that they're doing. However, when I've been asked, my dumb ass is always like, well, since you asked,
this is what I'm saying.
It never occurs to me to vet that invitation to speak my mind before I just start saying whatever the fuck. So I'm starting to think that maybe I could learn a thing or two from all of these pop culture tropes. Like, maybe
I think in this scenario, this is a very different dynamic where it's like he is your social superior, he is your professional superior. I think erring on the side of caution is much smarter.
Yeah, agreed.
I still wouldn't do it, but good on you.
Excuse me. I'm also, I have to remark that after everything that the two of them have been through, and by everything I mean seeing that guy come to life and try to murder them, I always am a little, and again, this is not a criticism of the book, and I think I think the book is handling it well, but as a reader, I'm always just like, why are you being so formal? You know, like, like I thought we had something. But again, that's just my bag.
That's funny. Why are we being so formal? He is the Lord Commander, not just regional manager.
Regional manager of the Night's Watch. Shit.
Assistant to the regional manager.
God. Now they have different times. Don't they have different, like, watches at the Night's Watch? Like East Wall or East Watch or whatever.
East Watch by the Sea, and yeah, there's a couple other ones.
So those are like different branches.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. I need somebody to do that for me, please. The Office, but at the Watch. Please.
Well, if you're not careful, we're going to transfer you to the cancer station.
Oh, shit. So, once Jon is convinced that he can speak freely, he admits that with the Rangers not being able to go out further or range freely, they're not going to be able to find his uncle. Mm-hmm. And that's a bummer for Jon. And Mormont says in reply that actually it would be easier for one man to find 200 people than 200 people to find one man. And basically just that their whole group has made such a fuss, you know, between the smell and the fires and the horses and everything, that if Benjen is out there and he's alive, he's going to see them.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's logic. It makes a lot of sense. The problem being, because he says something like, if he's alive and free to move around, he'll find us. And Jon's like, yeah, but what if? And he's like, yeah, exactly.
You know what he says? He says, even if he's dead, he might still find us anyway.
Oh my God, I forgot he says that. Oh, that's really good.
Which is really not what any of us wanted to hear. That is not making anybody feel better about anything.
Man, I forgot. Yeah, if he's dead, he may come to us anything. Or anyway. Shit. I dread that as much as you, but we must admit the possibility. Which I really appreciate because, I cannot tell you guys. I've been reading a lot of, fantasy lately. And not, high fantasy exactly, but, just, situations that are sort of fantastical, just to have on for my audiobooks in the background. And I can't tell you how many times a character is utterly shocked that a thing has happened to somebody that it's so clear that character was at risk of this happening to them. And it's like it never entered their head that could be what happened. And as a human being, we always are capable of imagining the worst case scenario. Let's get real. So every time that happens and they act as if this is just oh my God.
It's never entered our thoughts, right?
Yeah, come on, So I really like that they just straight up acknowledge, yeah, he may be a fucking zombie. Yeah. What are you going to do?
And I like that Mormont it's a point that said, is made a point that we know that when he's talking to Jon about the possibility of his uncle being dead, he's not being cruel about it or callous. Mm-hmm. He's just stating, a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, this is part of what makes me feel like he asks Jon because he does respect his opinion, because he's willing to be honest with him about something that's, painful.
Right.
I just think that marks it's seeing somebody as emotionally intelligent and mature enough to handle bad news, potentially.
He said something too. He said, Maester Aemon thinks you clever. Excuse me.
There's a real sense of it, just why don't we convince me of that here, buddy?
Yeah, because that's all he says. He doesn't really have a follow-up to that. Just puts it out there.
No pressure. So then he's like, you know what? This is all talking about this shit and this whole damn day. I'm fucking tired. I'm not going to eat dinner. I'm going to go to bed. So you take off. And Jon himself is very hungry. For a minute. And then he goes and hangs out with his friends for a second and he's like, so what happens? They're talking, it's Gren and Dywyn and Dolorous Ed. And Dywyn is like, these woods don't fucking smell right. And they're mocking him because he says it smells cold.
Yeah, don't think that cold doesn't have a smell. Which it absolutely does.
100% it does.
Not the smell Jon's talking about, but I just think in real life, I think cold has a smell.
Agreed. Hard agree. And I mean, there is the smell of snow also, which probably is pretty close to what I'm thinking of. Mm-hmm. But yeah, snow has a very particular smell.
Yeah. You can always smell it. It's going to snow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. And Jon, they're all sort of poo-pooing this dude. And he's like, oh, it does have a smell. And that is the smell that was in the room when What's-His-Face came back to life.
Yep. And it smells like death.
Yeah.
And then he's not hungry anymore.
He just hands his bowl over to Gren and it's like, oh, God, I gotta go. So he is by himself here for a minute and he's just sort of standing, looking around, uneasy. And then he hears wolves howling and he looks over and it's Ghost. And he's like, oh, shit, okay, I kind of thought you were going to be out all night because you were acting really weird. And he calls Ghost to him, and Ghost circles him, but doesn't settle down. And Jon is kind of like, what's going on? Do you smell something? And Ghost walks off and then stops and turns and looks at him. And Jon realizes, oh, he wants me to follow him.
Yeah. And Jon is remembering that Ghost was one of the first to realize when the dead men came.
Yeah.
That he knew. So he is not only understanding that Ghost wants him to follow him, but Jon is, like, freaked out about it. Like, this has got to be something really bad that he's acting this way. And yet, he goes after him into the woods, alone, in the dark, by himself.
Can I tell you, though, as much as that is, like, very annoying, I love the fact that Jon is putting together that Ghost realized what was... Because, like, again, with stupid fucking protagonists, there are so many books where there was a clear pattern established early enough that you should have put together by now, you dodo. Mm-hmm. And now, the fact that you haven't figured it out, I'm supposed to, like, be sympathetic to the fact that you walked into this shit. And I'm not, because you're stupid. And I really love that Jon is already being like, cold definitely has a smell. Mm-hmm. My wolf knew when dudes were around. He's acting weird, and I'm going to immediately ask him, is there something out there? Like, thank you, Jon, for putting 2 and 2 together, because, Jesus, I have no patience for some of these characters. So, I will say, you are right. He just walks out by himself. I think he's assuming that if there's anything, his wolf will take care of it.
Yeah. I think that, and I agree. I feel like Ghost, we know for a fact that Ghost can handle himself if it had been, say, a White Walker out there. Mm-hmm. However, I just needed to go on record as you could have, like, got a friend.
That's fair. I do wonder what they would say.
They probably would say, I'm not going in the woods.
I feel like that is what he would get, yeah. Just a whole lot of, like, I'm fucking tired. We've been walking all day. What? I'm not doing that now?
So it probably makes sense that he doesn't even fucking bother trying, because he already knows what the answers he's going to get.
Yeah, but my wolf's acting weird. Bitch, what?
Trying to explain to people, but it knows. It always knows.
Especially considering that wolf has, like, attacked people. So
it's true.
Nobody
right.
really trusts Ghost the way that Jon trusts Ghost. So I could see everybody being like, oh, yeah, your wolf's acting weird. That's not motivating me to go.
I take it back. Jon's going in the woods by himself. There's just no other way around it. I take it back. Oh, shit. So he has to get by a guard, which I thought was really funny, to go follow Ghost, and he says that he's going to get water.
He rolls a, like, nat 20. It is the lamest excuse and doesn't even work because he has no bucket, and the guy doesn't look at him, doesn't even, like, pretend to try it. This is like the equivalent of in any, like, D&D game. I have to get by the guard. The guard has a sudden heart attack and drops dead. You can just walk by him. That's practically what happens here. This dude couldn't give fewer fucks. Bless him. It's fucking cold. This is what I'm saying. Nobody's going out there.
No. Oh, shit. So he goes out and he follows Ghost kind of down the hill, and Ghost doesn't have any trouble navigating the terrain, so he's going at a pretty brisk clip. Jon, on the other hand, is certain he is about to tumble to his death because he can't really see where he's walking. The ground is uneven. It's stony, shit's crumbling, there are holes in the ground that break his ankle, and he's thinking to himself, what in the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
As he continues to make his way down the hill.
And I will be honest, because I've told you guys before, I don't remember these books super well at this point. I could not recall what the fuck Ghost is leading him to. Did you remember what this was?
I did not.
Okay. So I was super tense because I just kept being like, they're out there. Turns out, like, well, probably, but they're not right here. But I just really kept, like, waiting for them to just, you know?
I really like that. Well, probably.
Just, you know, we'll get to it, but they still have
they're out there
to get through. They're at the snack bar.
So he follows him, and he's trying to, like, kind of call Ghost back to him, tell him not to go so far, so fast. Ghost is really not trying to hear any of this.
It's true.
And Jon is getting angrier and angrier at himself, I think, but he's yelling at Ghost.
Yeah.
There's a really great sentence. He says, where is it? Every few feet he called again for Ghost, but the night wind was swirling amongst the trees and it drank the words. I love that.
Ooh, that is a good one.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like just it's so tense in the description of where he is and with the wind and how dark it is, and he can't really see Ghost, and he, it just, by the time we get to the sort of reveal of Ghost leading him to something that needs to be dug up, I didn't know what the fuck was going to happen next. I really didn't. And I was, kind of reading with like my hands clenched and didn't even realize I was doing that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, drank the word. I love whenever an author uses like that kind of, there's something sort of visceral about what they're saying, but they're using a word in a way you don't see used, There was, in the Cradle books, there was a moment where something smelled really weird and bad, and he says something about how the stench soaked the air.
Ooh.
And I really liked that. I was just like, ooh, yeah, that's actually it can feel like you're drowning because you can't breathe when a smell is strong enough, But yeah, so eventually he gets to this, like, there's something on the ground, half buried. And again, I didn't remember what this was. Even here, I wasn't like, oh, right, this is nope, did not happen. I was like, what the fuck is he doing? He's touching it? Ew, stop it. Like,
just shoving your hand in there.
Exactly, like, don't. And, there's like this clacking sound, but it's not the clink of metal. And I'm like, it's bones! I was so sure this was going to be like a, undead baby.
What does he say? Yeah, because it's like a small bundle. So then as soon as you get the size, you're like, oh shit, it's even worse than I thought. It's going to be a baby.
Exactly.
For a split second, I was like, is this one of the Craster's babies? Wait, no.
Yes, see? Thank you. Exactly. I know I'm supposed to be the spoiled one, but spoiled asterisk. I'm spoiled asterisk. Rashawn is unspoiled asterisk.
So what he is fair. I love it. I listened to an audiobook during the day, and then I read the chapters after work. There's a moment where he's like, treasure.
I forgot he thinks treasure. You idiot.
And even I was like, that ain't no goddamn treasure. What are you talking about?
To his credit, he pretty quickly is like, that doesn't make any sense.
But I love it because it's such a, it makes zero sense in context, right? Mm-hmm. But it speaks to something almost like a kid in him,
Yeah.
That would, like a little part of him that would think, oh, my wolf has led me to buried treasure because, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Oh, but that's him acting the boy.
Kind of, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in all fairness, we know that it is low-key kind of treasure.
That's true.
Right? So,
yeah.
You
make a good point.
But I did laugh pretty hard at that part in the audiobook, especially because of the way he says it.
So yeah, this is where he finds all of these dragon glass knives and arrowheads, what the maesters call obsidian. And he thinks, had Ghost uncovered some ancient cache of... Cache?
Cache, I thought.
I always thought it was cache too, and I feel like I looked it up and it wasn't.
Oh.
I've done this so many times because this word is used a ton in Mistborn. And if Miles is listening to this, he's going to be like, Natasha, we have been over this.
We've
so
covered
many times.
this.
I'm sorry. I think it's cache.
I think you might be right. Cache is something different, right?
Yeah, isn't that like influence? Like networking kind of thing? Isn't it?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm completely distracted because all I can think now is George Costanza. It's got cachet out the yin yang. So the word has lost all meaning for me. I'm sorry.
Oh my god. All right, moving on.
I'm trying to find a Google thing where it will pronounce the word for you. We used to use that all the time.
The one that where Jack Donaghy is the one to pronouncify.com. Okay, so yeah, this is when he's thinking like, is this like some ancient stash? And then he realizes that what the arrowheads and knives are all wrapped in is a Night's Watch cloak.
Yep.
So clearly could not have been here that long because this shit would have rotted away, first of all. Right. And yeah, just... So, you know, what does this mean? And again, we end it right there. So, like, it doesn't feel like he's not in danger. It's we're on pause with the danger for right now.
Yeah, he's still, you know, in the woods by himself. Mm-hmm. Well, not by himself. You know, Ghost is with him, but you know, he's not back safely at camp when this ends.
And I just kept waiting for the other shoe to drop here. So when it ended there, and there is no appearance of a other or white, I was just like, oh, God. Oh, I got myself all worked up for nothing. So yeah, that's the end of that chapter. And then we go on to Bran. So, this is where we get the manifestation of what Jojen saw in his green dream. Mm-hmm. You'll get a piece of news, and it'll be like this lovely red meat in the dream that he had, and the Walders will get some bullshit bad meat, but they'll still enjoy it more than you do. Mm-hmm. And what it turns out to be is that he gets news of the fact that his brother has won a battle. But it doesn't actually, like, signify much.
Yeah, because the person that they've defeated, Stafford Lannister, is some no-name.
Exactly.
And they're basically like, Tywin is the only one that fucking matters. Mm-hmm, so this battle, I guess he won. That's great, but what?
Congratulations. Now go do something.
We have a quick bit of Rickon just being like... tell Robb I want him to come home, and Mother and Father too, which also kind of dampens the news of the victory, right?
Right.
And then the bad news is that Stevron Frey has died. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then the two Frey kids...
Mercenary little wretches.
Yo! They start calculating.
They pull out a family tree and cross him off and then just roll it up and put it away.
You know the episode of the flying hellfish from The Simpsons when you gotta wait for everybody to die and the last one gets the prize?
Oh, yeah. I don't know that episode, but I know the concept, yeah.
That's what it was. You just crossing off names off the list. Mm-hmm. Last one standing. I think Owen just recently sent me a meme of that, too. That's So they are, not only are they not grieving the loss of this cousin uncle, but
hated that. Okay.
I'm not exactly sure his relations. He says, your uncle. Okay, so it was their uncle who died. First thing, one of the Walders just shrugs and says he was very old. These little motherfuckers.
So much, I swear to God. And Maester Aemon is like, what the fuck is wrong with you two? And they're like, oh, no. We're very sad.
When the kid says he's very old, he says he was always saying he was tired. Now, as a bitch who often says she is tired, if I die,
God.
I don't want that to be the first thing people say.
Oh, whatever. She was always talking about how tired she was. Congrats, the final sleep.
Oh my God. So this goes on for a bit. They start trying to figure out like the rules of succession and shit. And then Maester Lewin is just like, can you little ghouls fucking stop it? And then the bit like you just said where they're like, yeah, we're very sad.
I swear to God, that cracked me up more than anything. Was just the pitiful... Like, it's not even really an attempt. It's more just like, well, say the thing we're supposed to say.
He says, where is your grief? And the answer is just, yes, we're very sad. Like, that's...
Oh my God.
It's like the whole
This should not be as funny as it is, but it's so funny.
It's funny because it is so in line with literally everything I have learned about the Frey fucking family at this point. Like, the whole genetic line is trash.
Yep.
And it just is, and here you are. Because these are like basically two little kids.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. Trash. So, this is when Bran makes the connection. They like the taste of this dish better than I do. And he asks if he can leave.
Yeah, he gets a little bit spooked on that.
Yeah. There's it's not like super important, but when the Bran chapter opens, Hodor is unavailable. So somebody named Alebelly is who is like carting him around. Mm-hmm. And then when it's time to leave, Hodor is still in the stables at this point. So, is it Osha? Osha, right? Asha? Osha?
I think we say Osha.
He says it weird in the book. He's just like Asha in the book. In the like audiobook.
We don't talk about that anymore. It's too upsetting.
But he remarks, Bran thinks to himself that she was stronger than Alebelly, who was winded after he brings Bran up for this meeting.
Bran, buddy, shut up. Carrying you up all these castle stairs. Look, it's not easy, okay?
Yeah, it just sounded like he was all red-faced and panting. It's rude.
Oof.
So, he asked her on their way down the stairs, does she know the way north? And she says, yeah, it's easy. You just gotta look for the ice dragon and chase the blue star in the rider's eye. And he starts asking her about giants and the others and children of the forest. And she says that she's seen giants, but she's only heard tell of the White Walkers.
Yeah. And the children.
No, I'm sorry. I misspoke. She says she's seen giants. She's heard of the children I've heard of. The White Walker, she says, why do you want to know? She doesn't answer the White Walker question. I just realized that. I missed that the first time I read this. She doesn't answer. Why do you want to know? Answer the question.
You took such exception.
But he doesn't press her on that. Because really, he's got other things on his mind.
True.
And he asked her, has she ever seen a three-eyed crow?
And she just was like, no. Sounds freaky. Thanks, I'll pass. Sounds like something that would come out of Mr. Burns's
my God.
facility.
I think did he have... Oh, I won't... Don't get me sidetracked like that.
I'm sorry. We just watched the episode where what's his name has like the fantasy about what it would be like if him and Mr. Burns ran the place by themselves.
Smithers?
Yeah, and that like boom, 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 boom,
I love that music.
Music plays.
I love that music. They use it a couple times in the show. I love that background music. I think it plays one time when Homer envisions himself in the land of chocolate.
That's right.
Oh,
sorry,
God,
that's my fault. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's my fault. It's my fault. Take full responsibility for mentioning The Simpsons in front of Rashawn. Everybody knows.
All right, focus. Okay, so he gets back to his room and...
Oh, wait.
Oh.
Wait.
No.
Wait. Okay. There's a mention... Oh, okay. No, you know what? It happens during that time, but it doesn't get brought up until later.
What's happening?
Because I was going to talk about Lady Hornwood.
Oh, yeah, no, we didn't get to that yet, did we?
We didn't, because, like, the information was given... was it during... I thought it was during that, but... No, it's over supper later that night. Okay, so it didn't happen yet. My bad. Because I thought it was like, we can't skip that, but we aren't skipping it. My bad. I got overexcited. Lady Hornwood is just such a tragic figure to me.
Yeah. Okay, so he's in his room. Jojen and Mira come up, and I think this is when we start talking about how his dream came true, and they start talking about what kind of dreams Bran has now.
Mm-hmm.
He asked Bran to tell him what is the bad thing that he'd been dreaming about.
Yeah. This is sort of... I was frustrated here with Jojen because he is so fatalistic about everything. Like, eventually he's like, oh, okay, so you're a warg. Everybody's going to really hate you.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would you say that? And then later on, well, can't we do something to stop it? No, you can't. These dreams just... No matter what you do, it's going to happen.
Yeah, Mira gets like, really frustrated.
Yeah.
She's like, what is the fucking point of having them if you can't do anything? Which I think is a valid fucking question.
Mm-hmm.
But the bad thing that I said Bran earlier, but I meant Jojen. The bad thing that he's been dreaming about is that the sea is coming to Winterfell.
Right.
Which makes no sense. Now, of course, I've seen the show. So... my assumption is really this is sort of referring to whenever Theon or whoever from the Iron Islands comes and all of that terribleness happens. But reading it, I thought to myself how cool it must have been to be reading this for the first time and getting to see, like, getting this sort of, like, prophecy and then seeing what it actually meant, like, down the line. And thinking that must have been pretty neat for you guys that got to experience that.
I feel like I thought that one was fairly obvious because at the end of Theon's chapter, it's, like, foreshadowed so deeply that his father plans to attack Winterfell.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
You know? Because, and then, like, even later on in this chapter, Maester Luwin mentions, there's
raiders.
Been some talk about reaving happening.
Yeah, that's true. The part about well, I guess there's no way to know if that was coming. The slicing of the faces.
Oh, yeah, no, that one, there's no foreshadowing.
So that's what he's been dreaming about, and Bran is convinced that they need to warn everyone. And Jojen also says that he names the people that are going to die.
Yeah.
He says that he'd seen their faces before, but didn't have names for them until he got to Winterfell and got to meet them. Poor Bran.
And he's like, we have to warn them. And Jojen is like, literally, why? They are not... You didn't believe me? You had to have this fucking thing happen that was like... And nobody's going to believe us either. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And we see that they do share this. And most people don't believe. And the one guy who does takes it like really literally.
Oh. And then is so mad at them afterwards.
He's like stops bathing and shit. And everybody around him is like, hey, dudes, can you not tell this guy to stop bathing? Because we have to be around him. And they're like, that's not what we said. But
he took our words out of context. Misrepresented.
Fake news.
So then Jojen asks Bran to share what he dreams about. And this is where he ends up, after Bran describes the dream of being in the wolf. The fucking audiobook, the way he says warg.
Warg.
It's like an assault. It's just like a...
He's such a fucking weirdo. What a strange choice.
But in the way Jojen says, warg, shapeshifter, beastling. That is what they will call you, like you said earlier. He doesn't really just say, hey, this is this thing that some people can do, right? Mm-hmm. Some people can just, be in their animal and see through their eyes, or any, like, nice, cool way of saying it.
Right.
Like, he made telling Bran that he basically has superpowers into, like, the worst news ever.
Yeah. He's got no bedside manner.
He really does not. With his weird green eyes.
And look, I get it. The kid is probably really tired, because this does sound like it must suck to have this power.
I guess.
Like, I can imagine if you are somebody who, we don't actually have this power, you and I, and a lot of other people. We could still tell you what was going to happen if people did the shit that they indeed wound up doing.
Right.
And, oh, look, the shit happened that we warned you about. There's a variant. Thanks. And we're all so tired. And it was just that one thing.
Right. Imagine if it was all the things all the time.
All the things. And it's just like constant catastrophe. And just nobody fucking listens or believes you. Yeah, forget it. And the one person who should really believe you because they're related to you and have watched this happen many times still is like, some of them come true sometimes. And you have to be like, that's not it. All of them come true all the time.
I feel like, listening to that sort of examination of what it must be like to be Jojen makes me suddenly very sympathetic to Mira. More than I even had been before. Because he cannot be fun to be around.
Certainly not.
And he's so, like, rigid. And I'm assuming the rigidity...
Correct.
Comes from him knowing beyond any doubt that what he sees is true, and his firm belief that what he sees can't be changed, that the idea that what he says isn't true or that things can be changed to him is like tedious, because he probably feels like we have already been over this. Mm-hmm. Right? But if you're an outsider, like, how can you not question it? And how can you not feel like her frustration where, like, what is the fucking point of being able to see this stuff if we can't do anything about it? Why are we traveling all this fucking way if we can't change anything? Like, so, yeah. What's the thing people say? I bet you're a lot of fun at parties.
Ew. Oh, I hate
you know that comment, though? Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There was one I saw today where somebody was like, oh my God, people who say shit like this are insufferable. And then somebody replied with, people who use the word insufferable are insufferable. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta get off the internet. It's too much.
It's the, oh my God, I gotta get off the internet for me. That moment of almost panic where you're just like, it's too much internet.
Just like, oh, my fucking eyes almost crossed.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So our poor Bran is rightfully kind of having a panic attack at this news.
Yeah.
And the way it was delivered. The only experience, exposure, or whatever to even the idea of these things, which aren't supposed to be real things that exist, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the only thing he's ever heard about any of these things is from the stories that old Nan tells, and they're always evil.
Yeah.
And all he can think is, I'm not evil. I'm not those things. It can't be.
He says something like, but I don't want to be like a warg. I want to be a knight. And Jojen's like, you want it to be one way.
Fuck!
But it's the other way.
Bet he really did. He really did pull Marlo right out, didn't he? You want it to be one way. Oh my God. A knight is what you want. A warg is what you are. You can't change it. You can't deny it. And you can't push it away. And then he pokes him in his forehead.
I forgot he does that. And Bran reaches up like, oh, maybe he opened it for me.
Oh my God.
No, sweetie.
Nothing but forehead skin.
Can you please never say that again? Jesus Christ.
As soon as I finished saying it, even though there wasn't anything necessarily wrong with what I said, I knew
there
it
was something necessarily wrong. Fuck. Ugh. You're just full of phraseology this evening that I do not care for.
Okay, my apologies.
Their uncle, cousin.
So, oh my God.
I'm sorry.
So, poor Bran is trying desperately to understand the idea of the third eye, which I don't even think he calls that yet. Jojen says, unless you open your eye, when he pokes him in the forehead.
Mm-hmm.
And Bran is trying to, like, I don't understand what you mean. Like, how can I open something that's not there? Taking it very literally, like much more literal than it's meant.
Right.
And what does Jojen say about that? He says,
basically, you have to open it in your heart. Which I was like, that's not... Like, you just saw how literally this kid took that. Don't say that either, because I feel like he's going to go a weird direction with that, too.
It's just... Jojen is full of all the information that we need to Bran to have.
Mm-hmm.
And he tries here. What he says is... Because Bran is like, Mason Lewin says that the dreams are nothing, right? My dreams are nothing. I don't have to, like, worry about them. They're just dreams. And Jojen says that, no, there is stuff in dreams that you can need to fear. The past, the future, and the truth. So, sir, young man.
Young man.
How old is Bran? 9?
I think 8. He might be 9. I have trouble with the timeline here sometimes. Let's say 9. That's fine.
So he's still very, very, very young, and I don't want to put too much pressure on the other kid because they're very young too. They're older than Bran, but they're still pretty young. He's just not doing a great job of bringing Bran along. Bless his heart. But But that pretty much ends there.
Get up on your mic more. You got quiet again.
Sorry. It pretty much ends there. This, them being in the room talking to him about all this stuff. And we find out that over the next few days, Bran has been trying to warn people.
Yes.
About the sea rising and coming to Winterfell.
And is it Micken who's like, man, I always wanted to see the sea. That's awfully nice of the gods to indulge me.
Yeah, that's the first one. Then he tries to tell the Septon, and they're just like, the gods will take me when they see fit, which is so on brand.
Yeah, that's my dad's whole fucking, that was his attitude. He wouldn't wear his seatbelt and then be like, well, if it's God's will. And I'm like, God fucking made you a seatbelt, you tool. But he didn't want to hear me.
They never do. Mm-mm. They never do. And then we get to Ale Belly, who we talked about. He takes it very seriously. Oh my God, Deception also says, I'm a strong swimmer.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Ale Belly, who, when you think about that name, maybe it makes more sense that he goes, like, completely bonkers and refuses to, take a bath or go near a water well. And then a couple days later, Sir Roderick returns, and this is when we find out about what happened to Lady Hornwood, which was, to me, a shock, because she, I don't think, is a character that makes it into the show at all. We talked about that when she showed up at the, sort of the feast and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is terrible.
I know, right?
Roderick shows back up to Winterfell with Reek.
Yeah.
Which is also very different from the show, because for me, on the show, there was no Reek until there was Theon.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have this other Reek character, like a pre-Reek. Not pre-Reek. Reek, whatever,
Yeah.
you guys
Reek
know what
1.0.
So Roderick shows up, and he tells Bran that he has this disgusting sort of manservant that, attended to Ramsay, and that they found him doing something that was so horrible. Bran doesn't understand what it was, but it seems to be something you did without your clothes.
Hmm.
And they managed to shoot him, take him down with arrows.
Yeah.
We find out that after Ramsay married her, he had her locked away in a tower and didn't feed her. And supposedly the men say that when she was found, her mouth was bloody and her fingers were chewed off.
Yeah.
So that's pretty horrible.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. So they are stuck because, she was Ramsay's wife.
Right.
Wait, hang on a second. Oh yeah, I skipped right over it. Ramsay is supposed to be dead.
Right.
I skipped that part.
Mm-hmm.
And he is who Sir Roderick says they caught doing something so terrible that the Bran didn't know what it was.
Right.
And they have this prisoner, Reek. So I know enough to know that is not what's happening here.
So what is happening here?
I know that Ramsay's not dead. That much I know.
Okay.
Because I know, even if the book is different from the show, I know enough from conversation around the show that certain events that happened on the show involved Ramsay later down the line.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that Ramsay's not really dead. I think that's pretty much all I know.
Okay. I thought you'd have more than that, but I enjoy that you don't.
You know what? It's
fine. It's fine. It's great. I like it.
It could be that, and I might, and I don't know if I'm remembering this from years ago, but I want to say Ramsay switched places here.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true, and I don't know. I'm not trying to say I'm guessing that. I just feel like I learned that at some point, very like years ago. But we'll put a pin in that because how would they not know it was him? Well, I guess there's not like Twitter.
Yeah, they don't have photos.
They don't know what everybody looks like. So I guess you could just, put somebody in like some highborn clothes or like a fucking sigil on their back or some shit, and that's really all you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, gross. What if it really is Ramsay and they just brought him into Winterfell like this? Ugh, that's gross. That is so upsetting to me. Well, we will revisit that.
Okay.
But, so, the bigger picture is that this is a problem because, one, they killed, Roose Bolton's kid, even though it is his bastard. And, also, like, maybe they shouldn't get to keep her land and shit. Mm-hmm. But they were kind of technically legally married, so what are we going to do about that,
Yeah,
it's all very sticky. And they want to keep Reek / possibly Ramsay around, not because he deserves to live, but because they kind of need somebody to testify, to be a witness to what happened back over at what the fuck is it called? The Dread Fort.
The Dread Fort, which is just amazing. Right. Can we talk about how Luwin says he bedded her that very night before witnesses?
Yeah.
Can you imagine being given that fucking job? I'm going to need you to be in the room. Ugh. Ugh. No. Not even considering Lady Hornwood, because that's just too much.
Yeah, it's... Wasn't that, what do you call it in the show? The thing they did after the wedding where you carry her, they carry the bride into the room or some shit.
You mean like carrying her over the threshold?
No. In the show, when you get married, because there's a scene. Oh my addled brain.
That escalated quickly.
There is something in this show when you get married and then like everybody does. Oh my, never mind.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Anybody who knows what she's talking about, get in touch.
There was something about after the wedding, you all go into like to watch the groom and the bride.
Oh, like a bedding ceremony?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Okay, yeah.
Isn't that sort of the same thing that he's describing here?
Oh, yeah. It's just, usually in those circumstances, there is at least a pretense of consent. And I am guessing that was not happening here.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Ugh, poor lady.
Yeah.
So, all right, so then they get past that, and Bran tries to tell Sir Roderick that the sea is coming. And Maester Luwin is so uncomfortable. He seems so embarrassed.
I can't get over it. And he is like, well, all right, look, there is some shit going on. Like, that's true. And I really felt frustrated over this because he's like, but they don't make the connection that this is something to be concerned about, really. They acknowledge that there is trouble. And that they're working their way toward Winterfell. And then they're just like, those assholes. And that's sort of it.
Yeah, they assume that because they're sending this guy, somebody is sending their nephew Benfred, which is 2 first names trying to be one name.
I love it. Benfred.
And they're just really casual. They're like, oh, those fuckers are just going to leave. They're just going to get in their ships and run, you know. Basically, they're cowards. They don't fight. They just steal and run. So they're not taking them seriously at all. And I don't know if this assumption is well-founded. I know that the Ironborn aren't really respected, it seems like. It feels like they're not very well respected by more, air quotes, civilized, you know, houses and areas or whatever. But this whole exchange is really just like they are not to be bothered with. They're no concern of ours. They're not even going to stay and fight, you know. So do the Ironborn have a reputation? I don't have a reputation for stealing and raiding and shit, but do they have a reputation for not fighting?
I guess. This would probably be a good thing to ask Austin Armenio, who sends me notes for the episodes, to chime in on. Because he sent me some information for this one. But there's this... There's not anything about that specifically, but I will mention something that I found somehow even worse. So you know how, like, the whole thing with Lady Hornwood, it makes it sound like she ate her own hand because she was starving to death?
That's what it sounds like.
Right.
You're about to tell me something worse.
Well, what Austin put here was a common theory on what happened is that Ramsay had her fingers flayed, stripped of skin, and she chewed them off to stop the pain, then died of blood loss and shock.
Why, though?
That's the whole Bolton thing, is flaying people.
Yeah, but why just flay, like, 2 fingers? Like,
I mean, why anything with this guy?
I guess.
Yeah, you know, like, it could be, like, I think that her having tried to eat her own hand makes more sense.
I think it's also more disturbing. Not that the flaying is to be trifled with. I'm not, like, poo-pooing that. It's awful.
Flaying, schmaying.
I don't want to act, I don't want to act all unimpressed.
But yeah, that is not a theory that I had ever heard before, so I'm curious what other people think of that. But anyway, yeah, there's no mention, like, specifically of the reputation. I will say that I had seen Austin mention, and forgive me, Austin, if you put this in other notes and I'm just not remembering because it's been a minute, but he had said something at one point about how the whole thing with them being reavers and wanting to, like, go out and conquer is not how the Ironborn had been functioning, like, in terms of their government and culture over the last several generations, and that Theon's dad was trying to, like, bring it back. So him being really bloodthirsty and wanting to go out there and reave is a bit of a, like, old-fashioned approach that wasn't really how the Ironborn were trying to live anymore.
Trying to get back to our roots.
A little bit, yeah.
You know, our glory days and reestablish our dominance. And, well, you know, that's it's a really interesting thing to think about. You know, whenever because my assumption is, granted assumption, the Ironborn seem to have been cowed by a series of events, right? Mm-hmm. To the point where they not only don't seem to garner much respect, but don't have a lot of resources. They come from a pretty crappy place. You know, it all looks bad. And then you have somebody that comes to power that starts talking about how great you used to be, you know, and tapping into that, you know, is a recipe.
It sure is.
You know, I mean, we are. I don't want to, you know, I don't feel like I have to lay it out much more than that. But, you know, it can be a very, very powerful thing to remind people who perceive themselves as being downtrodden, you know, or oppressed or whatever.
I swear to God, the fucking desperate for oppression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Girl, I saw this thing today, small aside. This bitch shared a picture of her son in Carhartts and like a hoodie and claimed that him and his friend got sent home because their working man's blue-collar clothing was considered, quote, too Republican and right-wing. Okay, so, like, right off the bat, you're like, this did not happen. And then you go into the comments, and people had receipts of her son and his friend wearing Trump flags over their shoulders, trying to, like, start a little rally in the school parking lot.
Oh, my God.
They got sent home for that. But she's out here posting this thing about how freedom, it doesn't exist anymore, and our school system is punishing our children for wearing blue collar. Inventing this whole thing when people have fucking photographic evidence of what actually happened. And she went through, like, I only found out because people had taken screenshots of the comments, because she was going through and deleting all the comments. and then she locked down who could comment at all. So that she could keep her little narrative. And there were just hundreds of people commenting like, this is disgusting. This is completely unbelievable. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Fucking trying to invent oppression. It's just,
yep.
Like, what? Get a life.
And not only are they inventing it, but the minute it's invented, they end up believing it themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no telling her that that's not what happened.
Nope.
All the evidence in the world doesn't matter. That's in her mind, that's exactly what happened.
I really want to, like, know, too. Did she create this narrative for herself? Or did her son lie to her about how it went down? She found out after that he lied, and she was just like, oh, I'm not changing my story now. Or did she come up with this little spin because she felt like just doing some shit for the internet today?
I feel like 9 times out of 10, the answer is doing some shit for the internet today.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Oh, that shit made me so mad, though. Oh, it gets me so enraged when people just like, it's just a flat-out complete lie. I can't get over how bald-faced this shit is, and it's just everywhere. And it's pitiful. Straight up.
Yep.
Get a life. Anyway, so the Ironborn are MAGAs, is what you're saying.
I don't recall saying that exactly, but...
It makes sense, too, because they're like, we're going to go and get things for ourselves, when really they're just exploiting everybody around them and stealing.
I mean, a little bit.
Capitalism.
Little bit. So, Sir Roderick is being, because he's generally wonderful, and I really do like him a lot.
Right? He's a delight.
He tells Bran, wait, is he still talking to Bran? Bran's there, and he's asking him about what Jojen said, and he tells Bran that if this happens, right, he is going to go ride against the Raiders, and he asked Bran, did Jojen see him drowned?
It's a good little loophole.
It is, right? And then
Yeah.
Bran is like, no, he didn't see you. And he's like, all right then, well, see, good. And it makes him feel a little bit better.
He's like, I just won't bring them with me. And if they're not, then it can't happen. And Bran's like, I mean, Jojen said that it'll, like, happen no matter what. But I will confess this does help.
And then, like, right afterwards, it says that Mira thought that, too. Like, she's also like, yeah, okay, yeah, this is good. And then, here he come. The things I see in green dreams can't be changed.
And what she says, because she says, why would the gods send a warning if we can't heed it and change what's to come? And I'm like, you don't know that this is a warning. He may just be getting his wires crossed, and this shit is just a little bit of like tomorrow's news today kind of thing, you know? Like,
I mean, he was very clear. He doesn't make those kind of mistakes, ma'am. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Wait, what do you mean? Oh, you mean God?
Oh, I was talking about Jojen, but it applies to both.
Wait, so who doesn't make those kinds of mistakes? I'm saying she's acting like, oh, whatever you're being shown is like a warning from the gods. And I'm like, or...
Oh, you're saying that the gods are just fucked up sending the wrong message.
Yeah, that like the gods are they got the dream wire crossed with like the future timeline wire. And it's not a warning, it's just a fucking accident, like, preview. You know?
I misunderstood. I thought you meant Jojen got the wires crossed.
Oh, no. Yeah.
It's not the future. That shit's happening right now.
I just, like, there's a whole, like, assumption about, well, obviously this must be so that we can, you know, this is a warning for our sake. And I'm like, it's really sweet that you have that kind of faith in the universe looking out for you and everything.
You know what? You know what? That's actually, I mean, it's funny, but it's also really good because that seems to be kind of the way he looks at these things. Jojen, I mean.
That he looks at it as a mistake?
No. Like not necessarily warnings from the god. Just this is some shit that's finna happen. That's all it is.
Yep.
You know, and so that's why he doesn't seem to have the... I'm putting like I'm making up a lot of assumptions here, but we were just joking earlier about how she, what's the point of showing us if we can't change it, and how what a bummer he is, and all that kind of stuff. But
she doesn't say that, but yeah.
But if for him there is no connection to like a god's will, or this is, you know, right or wrong. There's nothing. There just are things that are going to happen, you know, and that there's no baggage to them. Maybe that's why he doesn't get so emotional about it, and doesn't like get hysterical about the fact that it can't be changed, or we should try to change it, you know? For him, it's very much just... This is just what's going to happen.
It is what it is.
You know?
Yeah.
That would make... And she is doing the assuming that, well, why would the gods send us this? You know?
Yeah.
He just answers, I don't know. But I feel like in his heart, he wanted to be like, who says that's where it's coming from? Just like you did.
Just goes to show how I feel about the universe. I'm just like, bold of you to assume anybody gives a shit about what happens to you, but okay.
Yeah.
And I don't really believe the universe is as unfeeling as that. Like, I actually believe that in a force of some kind, but it's just not the kind of, like, you know, I don't believe in somebody who reaches out and nudges the car that's about to hit you out of the way on such a personal level.
Right.
It would be nice. Also creepy. I just would prefer not. So
Giant hand just coming out of the sky and just moving that car a little bit over to the left.
I just like, anytime that you get into, you and I were talking about like the Truman Show syndrome, about feeling like you're always being watched. And I don't like that, just like, you know, in the best of times. And the idea of like a God that sees everything. This is like the kind of thing where people are like, your loved one is looking down on you from above. And I'm like, I hope not, because I don't need them seeing a whole lot of the shit that I get up to. Thank you. No, thank you. I understand that it's supposed to be they only tune in for the family-friendly programming, but I don't know that. Nobody guaranteed that to me.
I was going to say, I've never ever in my life been told that that's how that shit works.
I mean, I feel like it's like supposed to be implied, but I need that shit to be explicitly said, or else I'm just going to be like weirdly paranoid about it. You know how kids get. You take shit very, like, literally, like Bran, where he's touching his forehead skin. I'm so mad at you for that one.
So in this moment, I'm sorry. In this moment of Mira being frustrated and angry, she kind of lets slip
She
that,
just blurts this shit out.
That Bran should be getting ready to fight. And Bran is like, I should be doing what now? Mm-hmm. Why am I fighting? Am I going to drown? And we find out that it's not that Jojen saw him drowned, but what he saw was the man who came today, the one that they call Reek. You and your brother are going to lay dead at his feet, and he's skinning off your faces with a long red blade.
Yikes.
Mira, who I think I said before is about that action, says, well, I can just go to the dungeon right now and drive a spear through his heart and, dunzo. Mm-hmm. And Jojen doesn't tell her that it won't change anything, but he says the guards would stop you. They'll never let you near him, and they'll never believe you if you try to explain to them why you want him dead. And he just tells everybody that nobody will be able to stop him. This is going to happen. I don't know why, but I saw the end of it, and I see you and Rickon in the crypts, down in the dark, with all the dead kings and their stone wolves. Bran cries, says no if I went away, and the last line is, it will not matter, the dream was green, the green dreams do not lie.
I really want to know if he means, everything looked green in the dream. Does he mean when he says, the dream was green, is that a literal... It was all in shades of green.
It was for me. I mean, I feel like that's not how he meant it, but that is 100% how I took it.
Yeah.
And, since this is a book and not a TV show, you can't tell me different.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny that we never actually see, a depiction of one of his dreams in the show. I really would have thought that they would have indulged in doing that. But we only ever, I think, unless I'm forgetting, we only ever hear him describe them. Is that right? Do we see any of his dreams?
By the time he shows up in the show, none of this happens. By the time he shows up, they're already in the woods, and he just says that he had dreamed about Bran, and they knew to come find him, and that's how they found him in the woods. And then I feel like the rest of the fucking show isn't so much about his dreams, but it's about Bran and his journey into being the three-eyed raven and Worgen and all that shit. I don't even remember Jojen talking about dreams he had, other than that's how we knew that you were out here and that's how we found you.
Okay. Man, they really skipped a lot with that. I mean, it makes sense. It's not exactly crucial, I guess, but it's always weird to remember things that they just decided not to do. Disclaimer,
I am not a reliable source.
That's true. I do have to keep that in mind.
But that's what I remember. I know for a fact they don't show up until much later, but their journey together felt like it was much more Bran focused than on him at all. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We spent quite a bit of time in Bran's mind, but I'm trying to remember, did he have any dreams? Any green dreams?
In the show?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Bran didn't have... I think he had more of a traveling through time kind of thing that they were focused on for him.
Yeah, I remember so little of the show. I've blocked it out consciously. Yeah. It's wild how much you can make yourself forget if you try.
Imagine if you don't try. You're living like me.
Yeah, so that's the end of the chapter. So, you have any predictions? Any thoughts? Any queries?
I am. If I'm curious to get to whatever's going to happen with Winterfell, because I want to see how it plays in the book versus what the show did.
Okay.
Especially if this Reek / possibly Ramsay character is already there at Winterfell when Theon comes, what does that mean for the relationship I expect to see of Theon and Ramsay from the show, right? Like, I don't know I don't know. How does that happen? How does he end up, or does he? Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But if Theon ends up Ramsay's newest Reek, how does he manage to switch? How does he go from prisoner, I guess if the sack of Winterfell happens. I don't know. I'm just curious how that happens.
Yeah.
Like, does he just, like, surprise, it was me all along. Like, I don't know. That's the only thing that's making me feel weird about the possibility that if my snippet of memory is that Ramsay pretends to be Reek, I must be maybe confusing the timing of it, because I'm having a hard time imagining, the switcheroo back.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm, so, who haven't we talked to in a while? We haven't seen Daenerys in a minute, I feel like.
True.
And we haven't, let me see. Who else? I guess I wouldn't mind checking back in on, we just had a Catelyn chapter, but I wouldn't mind circling back over to her and Brienne. See how they're doing.
I would like a Davos chapter if I'm having my druthers.
Listen, I feel like we haven't seen him since the very beginning of the book. I just assume he doesn't get any more chapters.
I don't, I can't say, but I'm saying if I could choose somebody right now, that's who I would pick.
That would be my first pick, too. I had just given up on him.
That's fair. I can understand that. And I won't lie, there are characters that they pop up for, one or two, and then you just don't hear from them again. Granted, sometimes that's because they die, but not always. All right, so I'm going to say hi to new patrons. This week we've got Roy Hankins, Kira Bonef, CJ Nelson, and Cookie. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for becoming patrons and supporting the show. I deeply, deeply appreciate you guys. I had a vacation. So this last episode that went up was supposed to go up a week earlier. And then I was supposed to be taking the previous week off for my vacation. And then there was a small fire that broke out in my office. And
broke out.
It just really fucked up my whole plan. And I wound up not being able to edit when I thought, because the room was not usable. And just overall, the vacation didn't really pan out the way that I was hoping for it to pan out. And it just really messed up the schedule. And I know that a lot of people were like, wait, what's going on? Because things went up when they weren't supposed to, and then didn't when they were supposed to. I'm sorry, everybody. Nobody hates it more than me. I promise. But I just really appreciate how much everybody bore with me and was, they gave me grace. They held space for me to be a fiery mess.
I was going to say a victim of a fire.
I was about to say a garbage fire, and then I was like, that's going to sound like I had a garbage fire, which isn't what happened, but it's close enough, I guess. But yeah, it was it was not, I didn't knock a candle over, guys. What happened was I had a scarf that used to belong to my grandmother, my abuela, draped over the lamp in my office, and there was a candle burning a fair distance away, but apparently when I ran out of the room at a sprint after unsober because I had to pee so bad, I yanked the door closed behind me, which caused the scarf to flutter up and land on the candle. And that just caught, and so by the time I came back from the bathroom, my whole lamp was burning like a torch, and it just scorched the wall, and my whole ceiling was blackened, and the house was filled with smoke, and it smelled horrible. And it was just like, it was several days worth of cleanup and repair. And it was just a huge bummer. I can't believe how much damage such a small fire did. And just, guys, be careful with your fucking candles, because I've never had a problem. And, you know, I'm 37 years old, and it just took the one time. And if I had decided to pee and then immediately go out to get something to eat and didn't turn around and go back into my office, I would have come home to half my house on fire. Like, it would have been bad. And it could easily have happened because, you know, that I'll do that all the time. I'll like immediately run out to get something done because it's late and I want to do it before they close. I just count my blessings that I turned around and came right back in. So anyway, yeah, that's what happened. And it's been a ride over here. So everybody who becomes a patron, thank you. You're helping me to I actually got some birthday money from a generous friend that helped cover most of the repair costs, which was really helpful. But yeah, everybody who becomes a patron, you're helping with that last little bit of repair. Because our home insurance apparently has $1,000 deductible, so it wasn't going to be that expensive. Anyway, so that's what happened. Happy birthday. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up?
That was the saddest happy birthday. Nope. Nothing else from me.
All right, guys. Well, thank you again. We love you. I hope that you've been enjoying the coverage. And we will be seeing you again soon with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.